Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the first Mapping Melbourne event of 2021 and the fourth in the entire Mapping Melbourne series for 2020 and 2021. Before anything else, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're streaming to you on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri and Boon Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nations. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers who may be tuning in with us today. And I'd like to invite everybody to reflect for a moment on the fact that sovereignty was never ceded and we remain on stolen lands. So, my name is Adolfo Aranjuez. I am a writer, an editor, and dancer. And cheekily, also, I am one of the artists in Mapping Melbourne this year. Just a bit of a plug. This isn't about me today, but while I'm here, I may as well. You can't control what I say. Please do check out my work in Mapping Melbourne entitled Borealis. It's still on the website. It premiered in December. And enjoy. We're here for Mapping Melbourne, an incredible platform that celebrates the creativity and ingenuity of independent artists from the Asia region and Asian Australians as well. So I guess to highlight our connection to the region and people in this area. And it's a very exciting initiative. This year, it's made possible with the support of City of Melbourne, Creative Victoria, and the Australia Council. Today, we'll be viewing a series of works and we'll be joined by three incredible guest speakers. I'm bringing two of them to the screen first of all now. We've got Youbi Lee and Yuan Su, who are the creators of Omoon in the Teapot. Hello, hello. How are you both? Oh, I can't hear your sound for some reason. Are you? Oh my God, there we go. Yes, can now. Look at your beautiful bookcase. Wow, I have like bookcase envy. It's the most amazing backdrop. Thank you both for joining us and for contributing Omoon in the Teapot, which people will see shortly. But before we get into that, maybe could you both tell me about yourselves? Both of you are artists working across different art forms and genres. Youbi, you work with printmaking, illustration, video and performance. Yiwen, you work with dance, theatre, and illustration. How do you both juggle all of these art forms?
You go first. So yeah, as you described, we both have a lot of like different sectors that we explore in general. We met as sort of mates at first, and then became more like a workmate as well as housemate, not roommates. And Yuan and I both have this sort of a similar value on the art. I guess that art goes with the life and community. So when we are working together, especially, we are very focused on the people who we are working together, and that kind of bring us medium and the way of creating art instead than, for example, I'm the printmaker and you is the Odyssey dancer, so we have to do something together. It's not like that. It's more about what are we like, where are we, and who we are working together. Yeah.
So it's very much of the audience base, community base, and also sort of having fun as well, like doing something that we haven't done before, not in our specialties. So with the puppetry, we were both very interested in learning together as well with the audience, so that we can find a way to make things together and learn together. Yeah.
You're talking about this beautiful blending of roles, blending of art forms, but you also, I guess you're saying you also blend life and your professional lives. Is that hard, having that, boundary? I mean, do you make your work in this house that you live in together? Is that hard, having those boundaries sort of blended?
So far, it has been working very well. For example, when we were working on Omoon in the Teapot, it was so much easier because we were in lockdown, and so or in quarantine, and so like when we because we are living together, we are one bubble in one household, and so we can actually talk together, like make things together and make time together to do things like that. If we were living separately, I feel like it will be a bit more difficult for us to come together because of the social restriction imposed and just sort of the physical difficulty. Because Youbi is also a mom; she has a little child with her, and that also comes into the equation of time management and doing projects together.
Absolutely. So something I'm particularly interested in is that in your artist statement, you mentioned that you use low-cost everyday materials such as toilet paper rolls, plastic waste, that kind of stuff, when you make your work, and a lot of your work are puppets. Why do you do this? Why have you decided to kind of instill sustainability into your art practice?
I think sustainability is a big part of how we want to live. I think that's one of the reasons why we choose to live together, is to also, like have a sort of a vision of how we want to live a life, what sort of lifestyle we want to live, and how we want to live. So that's one part. I think with the toilet paper roll and waste part into like the professional field is that it started off with in March when we like read a lot news about what do you call it, like
Toilet paper buying, massive buying.
Yeah, people buying a lot of stuff suddenly, and
yes, the hoarding, yes,
the hoarding, hoarding toilet paper rolls, and that actually the idea of using toilet paper roll came from that that scenario, but and we were like, okay, we want to do something, and because people can't go out, so let's find something to do, pick something around at home and try to make art out of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that cue, perhaps now is a good time for us to actually premiere Omoon in the Teapot. So I bid you farewell for a little bit, and audience, enjoy Omoon in the Teapot.
Okay. Mama. What the world? Oh, I know. Ah! Ah! Hi. Hi. Yeah. Mama? Mama ka? Oh, oh. Oh, dito. Oh, oh. Oh, oh.
Such an incredible piece, that one. Oh, I especially love the theme of, escapism, which is so resonant with, the circumstances that we're all living with now. Bringing up, ideas of wanting to escape, but then also wanting, realizing that you're really anchored in the life that you're living in. Oh, so beautiful. Can we please bring back Youbi and Yuwen to talk us through their incredible piece? Thank you so much for making this piece of brilliance. Before I launch into questions, I might just remind y'all in the audience that you can also ask questions. So if you just type in the little box on the various platforms that you're in, I will see them. Actually, the artist can see them too. And if your question is particularly interesting, we will throw them to the table. But until that point, I'm going to ask a question of my own, which is about puppetry, which is so fascinating as a medium because it's not really that common these days. What is it that drew you to, work with that medium of puppetry?
I guess the puppetry is, as you said, it's not really like common anymore. But we really think that puppetry in general is very one of the oldest form of art, of theaters and also music and performance. So it is, in a way, when we watch animation or anything current in the current setting, it is like that. In olden times, they were watching the puppetries, so it has a sort of a magic into it. Like when object is moving, not the animation is quite different based, I guess. But when object is actually moving and then having sound and voice, it gives sort of imagination behind the view. Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of the puppets, could you talk us through the process behind the making of Omoon and the Teapot? I believe you have the actual puppet there with you. Or you did before. I'm not sure if you still have him. Oh, hello there. My gosh. Lovely to meet you, the superstar.
I will take over the show now.
Absolutely should. No, the true star. No one cares about the artist. It's always about the stars. But yes, no, please talk us through. So how did you, maybe from idea to, the creation to the filming, could you talk us through that entire process? How did it come together?
So it started with Omoon, and that was produced in April. We got a small funding from City of Melbourne. And we were like, okay, we have got this emergency grant, the artist emergency grant. And we got lots of toilet paper rolls, and we got lots of scraps around the house. What are we going to do with it? We want to do puppetry. And so we did something very simple, simple sort of figures in the previous one. And it was really just playing a lot, just spending time and playing a lot with toilet paper rolls. And that's one of the great thing about using low cost material. It is that if this is not good, we can just chuck it out. and then we can
Mm.
do it again.
That's right. That was the one of the main reasons why we used toilet paper roll as puppetry, because we both were interested about puppetries. But before we going into like traditional like making with wood and stuff, maybe we can study with like joint and everything.
Yeah.
Using the
Yeah. So like this is Omoon in the Teapot is a upgraded version of Omoon. And so with the first one, the puppets, we have similar face feature, but then this one we have more joints that can move around and legs that can move around. Whereas the first one, it was only static. And how do we, what is the process? It is really just playing, just exploring and playing, and we throw out a lot of pieces and then we create a few good ones and then we keep them and learn from there.
Yeah, but I guess also the storyline coming from the like inspiration of like we maybe wanted to tell little stories, but maybe based on the traditional structure of the stories line as well, like a traditional storyline, which is like one character was living in certain ways and then meet up this something object or like a object like a little door, or it can be teapot, or it can be anything, and then it changes that character's life slightly, and then it challenges the characters. So it is following actually quite a traditional storylines in a way.
Yeah.
A quick question from Sasha Long. Could you share about how both of you work together on the piece? So I guess maybe did you have separate roles? Was there someone doing the physical puppeting whilst was someone else filming? Did you just have like a camera on a tripod, that kind of stuff?
We both have a role.
Yeah, we both did pretty much everything in a way, but also so some parts of puppetry was moved by Youbi, and some parts of was mine, and also like we recorded our voice as well as all the special sound effects, some of them, and the lighting also we did. Everything kind of.
And editing and sort of from the scratch.
This is the way.
But also, like I think one of the great thing about puppetry is that when we make the puppets, we put in our own personality in there as well. So the puppets that Youbi make is very different from the puppets that I make. And when we make the puppets, we sort of, I guess with all other puppeteers, or it is that you put yourself in it. And so when we move the puppets, it is sort of it has a relationship with the characters of the person moving the puppet, which I think it is also one thing, something magical about puppetry in the traditional, in the oldest traditional form as well.
Totally. Well, something that isn't traditional, I suppose, in your storytelling is that there's no dialogue. You have sound effects, you have, like very clear action, a very clear arc for the character to grow, but no dialogue. I assume that was a deliberate decision. Could you talk us through the thinking behind, not having dialogue?
Yeah, like from the number of projects that we run together, we run one of kind of magical element of the show could be non-linguistic shows. So it doesn't involve any particular languages. So that means many people can actually assess. You don't have to actually know English. You don't have to learn about certain languages. You can only imagine with yourself. And it gives sort of a space for the audience to actually what's going on in the dialogue. We didn't particularly direct it. And so everyone has to thinking about their own stories. Yeah.
And also, it actually came from our work in Obang, so working with babies, and so in that learning, we realized that non-verbal communication is so integral in babies' world, and when we were doing this work, we were also thinking about all the participants or all the audience that might be watching. So it is from a young age to an adult, like go across all ages. And children will, when they watch the video, they have their own understanding and their own imagination of what that story is about. And it is very different from an adult's mind of what the story is about. And so if we put language in there, then it is very directed, like one way.
Yeah.
Whereas when it is non-verbal, non-linguistic, then it is very broad. And that's what we wanted it to be.
Absolutely, much more open to interpretation, in that abstraction. Totally. Well, thank you both so much. I might leave it there for now, but I will bring you back at the end to chat with you again at that point. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
And now let's bring in our second guest for this evening, Marcus Wong of Time of Art, who is the curator of ToA Connect, which we will be a series of videos that we will be viewing now. Hello, Marcus.
Hello,
how are you?
Hello, Adolfo. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. So I guess before we launch into ToA Connect, ToA stands for Time of Art. Could you maybe just tell us about, what Time of Art is, what its intentions are, what its goals are, and those sorts of things?
Yeah, Time of Art is actually a movement that was started in 2012 to bring of art together from different timelines through accumulation of creative concept and educational implementation. And we believe art is a universal language that is timeless, where people from thousands of years ago could still communicate with us now effectively through art without any barriers.
And in terms of ToA Connect, the series, specifically, I guess you've boiled down those intentions to specifically the cross-pollination or the relationship between, new media and technology and artistic mediums. What was it that drew you to, work on that concept?
Yeah, ToA Connect is actually an ongoing project that aims to explore the possibilities and the ways to connect with people through art. So nowadays, traveling and making physical contests are becoming difficult and rare. So digital life has also become our new culture. So to further emphasize the borderless and dimensionalities of art, here with Math at Mapping Melbourne, we have experimented for different ways to deliver artistic language digitally. So firstly, developing a whole virtual world. Second, the position of the computer programming in the art sector. And third, the interpretation of traditional art using new media. And lastly, the relationship between urban space and culture. And the most interesting part of it is that the artists or the producers of all the 4 exhibited works are from different countries, different cultural backgrounds, and different sectors or industries. So what we are also trying to prove here is that art is everywhere and is for everyone.
That is such a beautiful way of putting it. And I love this idea of the borderless too, like borders not just being about geographic space, but also, as you say, the borders between industries or art forms, the borders between intentions and languages. Absolutely. Maybe let's dive into the works first. So there are 4 of them. And I might get you to maybe talk us through each one before we watch them, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So let's go first with Connection by Jing Liu. Could you tell us about that one?
Yeah, sure. Connection was produced by a Chinese sculpture artist and Jin Lu, and a German sculpture artist, Golem. So regardless of the recent travel restrictions, transporting and building a new sculpture have always been difficult and costly. Therefore, instead of moving around physically, we started to look into building a virtual space and install the sculptures in the space. So this allows people to travel freely within the space, and on the sculptures without border. So that's the whole idea of it.
Excellent. Well, let us see it come to fruition. Everybody enjoy Connection.
Battles, battles. Each one I win, still losing the war. Hunger, out of hunger, all this emptiness says I want more. Battles, I have battles. Each one I win, says I want more. I know in the dark way, the shadows I discover my hope is born. In the dark way, the shadows I discover my hope is born. Battles, I have battles. Each one I win, says I want more. Each one I win, says I want more. Battles, I have battles.
Such an incredible piece, like a really kind of expansive scope there, and a really strong sense of the industrial. You know, I'm seeing, you know, the themes that you've been talking about with the series. But lest I get ahead of myself and get carried away, let's move on to the next piece that we'll be viewing, 5 Days by Jun Kiyoshi. What's that one about?
Yeah, 5 Days is actually a diary of a professional software programmer from Japan, Jun Kiyoshi. And instead of using pencils and paint, he used keyboard and computer language to express his feelings and to tell about his story daily. So that is all about. That's simple.
Oh, very relevant to our incredibly media-saturated world that we're living in. Everybody enjoy 5 Days. so fascinating. You get this really frenetic sense of usage, you know, and this is just one person using all of these digital technologies. I can't imagine, you know, what everyone else's would have. I certainly don't want to know my one. Looking at probably just like a massive black screen of just crossed exchanges. Well, moving from two very kind of industrial pieces and technologically, you know, almost cold, sterile pieces, moving to something a little bit more warm. Love in the Air by Emily Wong. Could you tell us about that one?
Yeah, Love in the Air was created by a young artist from Hong Kong, Emily Wong, and her work explores the different forms of love using colors, lines, and textures in order to make the feelings more specific, or some movements and sound effects were added. So it is like a music video. Instead of like having some characters acting, we have the paint acting in the video.
Excellent. Let's go. I'm excited to watch this. Someone, Freya in the chat, has described the piece as hypnotic, and I absolutely agree. And mesmerizing also from Sneha, which I think really captured what the piece has achieved. You know, Youbi and Yuan were talking about the importance of an arc in traditional storytelling, and you really kind of see that development between, you know, if the colors of the characters, there's that interaction between the two. Very mesmerizing indeed. And the final work that we're viewing today is The Beauty of Verticality by Jennifer Chung. What is that one about?
So the beauty of the verticality was produced by a young architect from Hong Kong, like Jennifer Chen. As a financial center with very limited land space, Hong Kong is a city that has always been called a concrete jungle. So we are always impressed by all the high-rise buildings along the Victoria Harbour, but never get to see the real culture behind these tall concrete walls. So this project visualized the human activities inside the jungle, or we can call it the real culture of Hong Kong. And through this project, Jennifer also brought up a few questions for us to think about regarding the use of the urban space. So the first question is it always the denser the space, the more interaction between human beings? So the second question is beauty of verticality the key to bring vitality and sustainability to the city? And lastly, is that will verticality create impacts to our culture? If it does, are they positive or negative?
Well, to ponder those questions, let us watch The Beauty of Verticality. so many people in so little space. I see, definitely the question is so well posed in that one. You don't really need words, you just need to see it. So we've now kind of gone from, a very profound meditation on, position and place, to what the use of technology, to love and nonverbal communication and the power of color, to density and population. How, as the curator, how did you pull together these quite disparate works into the series? And for example, did you brief the artists? Did you let them run wild creatively? What was the process behind it?
Yes, of course, the first is to select like the proper artist, and as I mentioned, the purpose of the ToA Connect, like we got the four main objectives to experiment. So based on those experiments, I searched for the artists in my database, and I started to communicate with them after I make the selection. So some of the work are brand new, like made, just like the Love in the Air is brand new made, and the connection and the rest of the work, like we make modifications to the original work, but it was originally just like a static, like plan graphic, except for 5 days, because 5 days he has been doing that for 2 years. Like he has done over almost thousands of
Wow.
diagrams, like this kind of genetic graphics. So we just picked one that is most memorable for him, and which is that could tell us about his culture, because he's from Japan. Like, so if you realize from the background music and the sound, also the red dot, like is all about Japanese actually. Yeah. So that this is how we work together, because I just went through the whole process and guide them how to, especially for Love in the Air, because it was so traditional. It was a painting, so I was just talking to her. Sorry, I've got my Siri.
That's okay. Hi, Siri.
Yeah.
Well, that should be another piece in the time of ToA Connect series. Like
Yeah.
Siri interventions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just work out how we can express the meanings that she wants to express with the use of other, technology, new media, or any other source of things to add on. So this is the whole process of it. And for connection, a connection is easy. Like, it's just, I think this kind of topic has been going around for a long time for everyone. Like, whether we should move on to a virtual space or whether we should stay into the reality. But yeah, so this is like, again, that we are trying to work out a space that everyone can access, so they could freely, like, just like the character in the video, so they could be that character in the video, and they could really, just like, again, walking around and playing around with the artwork, going up and down, going everywhere that they want. Yeah, this is the whole idea of how during the process talk about like what to present and how we do all those works.
It's interesting that you talk about this kind of blending of analog or traditional forms and newer technologies, which seems to be something that's becoming more essential, as we progress with all these increasing new technologies and different ways for audiences to engage with artworks. I think now is actually a really good time to bring Youbi and Yuen back to the conversation, because similarly, similar to the ToA Connect artists, hello, welcome back. I'm just talking about you behind your back, but now in front of your face. Yeah, so like the ToA Connect artists, the two of you have also used, quite analog materials, but transported it into, a very digitized context. Like there were special effects in Omoon that would not have been possible with traditional puppetry, I suppose. So for all of you, for both of you, do you think that this interbleeding of traditional forms and newer technologies is the way future? for the future for artists?
Lady first.
Yes.
That's huge questions. Who knows? That's really questions. I guess it's like going with it's about question about the future in general, like what sort of future will form in the not only about art but in general, like how technology will like affect to our life in the future. I think that's just a really big
Future even now already.
yeah, even now, obviously, and how that's affecting in our long-term history is it's very difficult to see at this moment because we are inside of that history. But I guess what art can do that is kind of teaching out or like playing around of that idea of the tension in between traditional and like the futuristic technologies or effects. And I'm not sure what do you think.
I totally agree.
So okay, I will go.
Sure, yes.
I think like it's not the matter of the whether technology or not, because as you know, everyone knows art. Like when we want to, it's like a language that I mentioned. We want to present something, so we gotta use a tool to make that happen, or create the outcome that we want to present. So what I reckon for technology, it is just one of the tool to make the whole message or the whole artwork or outcome to be more presentable, or even what you call perfect. So so I reckon it is not really the matter of technology or whether the technology will take over the art. I don't think so.
But also, I think in that aspect, technologies, tools, yes, but also it is not neutral. It has their own characteristics and medium. So I think we do use technologies to create art or whatever, but also technologies changes like our life, our forms. So it's like I think it's a very both way. It's not we like only
use it as a tool and,
exactly,
and see it as a tool. It is part of us.
I mean, no, and if the events of recent weeks are anything to go by, we can definitely argue that there are inbuilt biases built into technologies, but that is not. That is a panel for another time, a discussion for another time. A very big topic, that one. I do recommend The Social Dilemma on Netflix if people haven't seen it. It's an incredible documentary, very revelatory. Anyway, sorry, I don't work for Netflix. Another thing I'd like to tease out is that I realize that all of the works that we've seen today are there's no dialogue. They're all nonverbal. And Ewan and Youbi, you talked about that briefly earlier. You talked about the way you'd referenced some of your learnings from like early childhood and language acquisition, but I think something that's interesting for all of the works is that there is this dimension of accessibility where by not having dialogue you are breaking down barriers, which seems to be consistent with with all of the pieces and all of the work that you've done. Do you think it's important for artists and organizations and creatives in general to directly target their audience in this way to give back and engage with them, such that there are other artists that we shan't name who ensure that their works are quite obscure and difficult to understand, and they don't necessarily like you hear them and read about them in interviews and they say they don't care if people don't get the works, whereas I feel like it's quite the opposite for all of you. Is that something that's forefront of your mind when you create?
Marcus, your turn now.
All right. So I was all right. I think I always believe, like, for art, like I mentioned, like it's a language or something that we want to present. It doesn't matter whether people get it or not. some people get it, some people just like me and you, like, or as a friend, like some people get you or some people don't get you. So I don't think it's the matter, but like it's really the matters on how you present it and what is your purpose of presenting it. Like some people want to do art or present, making use of art to help others, or just to inspire others, or yeah, just to or deliver a message to a certain types of people or the target like groups, or like even one person. So yes, I believe so. This is not a matter, not the matter whether people get us or not. We just need to do the right thing, using the right method.
I think I broadly agree what you are talking about. Actually, like I have a similar feeling on there are different attentions about like the purpose of art, and that's great thing, having diverse purpose of the art. For me personally, and probably for even, I think the important thing for us is the way we are looking through the society and where we are living, and then just try to figuring out where art can placed in our society too. So it's not they are separated with us, and then we see maybe in our bubbles in this like I don't know country or in this community or this or that, where the art can be functioned and what kind of a function we can actually how we say contribute. So that's for us the big question always, and it always changes. Obviously, the questions and the contributions. Sorry if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. There's certainly a kind of a prophetic quality to art and art making. You're kind of trying to see beyond the veil and seeing beyond the obvious to convey something bigger than yourself. So no, I get that completely, and such beautiful answers. Thank you. I think maybe as a final point, I'm interested in alerting our audience to what's next for all of you. I mean, all of these works are part of an ongoing series. So the Omoon series exists, ongoing. ToA Connect is an ongoing series. But yeah, maybe just give us some teasers. What can we expect next from all of you? Maybe you, and we'll start with you.
Please.
I'll run away now. So we are working on another project on Omoon this year. So we are going with Creative Victoria and Banyu City Council grants. We are working with primary school children, age between 10 to 12 or even further to like 14, to make puppetry with them, and so sort of having what we have done and doing workshops with them, and then they will themselves put it on the social media, not social media, in the internet, sort of their story on and their experience on COVID, how they have gone through,
Love it.
So that's the next project for Omoon.
So exciting.
Yeah, so for me, the project, as I mentioned, is ongoing. So we will keep looking for different ways or formats to do experiments on using different form of technology to present different form of art. And this is an ongoing project that we'll be doing locally and internationally. And we are also looking to supplying technologies to help like the artists across the country. So and giving them, maybe guiding them, because some artists, they don't like or they don't even want to use, but because of what is happening now, and because of not even without COVID, like I guess we don't want to fully rely on technology, but we should learn on how to make use of it. So this is what we will be doing in the coming 2 years, how to distribute the technology and guide them and teach them how to make use of it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thanks to the three of you for joining us today, for illuminating us, for inspiring us. And we are all very excited to see what you bring to the world next.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And thank you again for joining us this evening. Don't forget that you can watch the works again and again and again on the Mapping Melbourne section of the Multicultural Arts Victoria website. Just a final thank you again to the bodies who have made this Mapping Melbourne happen, City of Melbourne, Creative Victoria, and the Australia Council for the Arts. Please do join us again next week. There'll be 2 watch parties on Wednesday and Thursday. On Wednesday, we will premiere 40 Days by Artie Jadu and Jan Kopinger, and I will once again be your host. So if you're not sick of this face yet, then you'll see it again. I promise to have a different hairdo. And don't forget to watch my piece in Mapping Melbourne. It's also on the Mapping Melbourne website. Have a good night, everybody.